What would you choose? Discover the incredible truth behind a heartwarming love triangle. The fall leaves danced outside the Maplewood diner, swirling with the crisp wind as Sarah juggled steaming mugs of coffee. Each pour felt like an act of love, a splash of warmth in the lives of the locals who flocked to her every morning. The small-town atmosphere buzzed with familiarity, the clinking plates, the laughter echoing from the booth in the corner, the smell of pancakes wafting through the air. But beneath her cheerful facade, a storm raged. Sarah was a devoted single mother to Tommy, her bright-eyed 7-year-old, whose innocent smiles were both a source of joy and a weight on her heart. "Mom, will we have to leave Maplewood?" he asked one evening, his voice tinged with worry. Each question pushed against the walls of her resolve, reminding her of the choices looming on the horizon. The diner was more than a job. It was home, a sanctuary filled with laughter and the strength of community. But the town was shifting, its economy faltering, and so were her dreams. Then came Jake, the reliable mechanic with hands that could fix anything: cars, hearts, whatever needed mending. His warm gaze was a beacon of familiarity, a reminder of safety and comfort in a world that felt increasingly unpredictable. And then there was Ethan, the newcomer with a twinkle in his eye and dreams spun from city lights. He spoke of a life filled with promise, adventure, and a departure from the cozy confines of Maplewood. The stranded cruiser relief in his voice tugged at something deep within her, igniting a flicker of ambition she thought had long been extinguished. But what would she choose? Her heart was a battleground, fighting against the whispers of societal judgment that crept in every time she looked at Ethan. Jake loved her, everyone could see that. But Ethan offered excitement, passion, and a chance to break free from the small-town chains. She felt pulled in two directions, each with its own allure. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amidst the chaos of her thoughts, the annual community fundraiser approached, an event meant to unite and uplift, yet it felt like the perfect storm brewing. Friends and family gathered with hopeful faces, laughter mingling with the tension building within Sarah. As she stood in the town hall, the familiar place felt different, a stage for transformation. Jake's reassuring smile warmed her heart, while Ethan's intensity left her breathless. Just as the night began, Sarah found herself cornered, words flying like daggers in this emotional whirlwind. The crowd held their breath, witnesses to the truth erupting. "You share your dreams, Ethan. But what about your past? How can I trust you?" She felt the weight of their eyes, each heartbeat echoing loudly as her heart throbbed with uncertainty. But just as she weighed her decision, a shocking truth emerged about Ethan that threatened her dreams of escape, leaving a fissure in her hopes. The air thickened with tension as the town grappled with its own judgments and beliefs. The fundraiser had become more than a social gathering. It was a reflection of their very values, a reminder of love, and what choices defined their lives. Sarah stood at the precipice of choice, the stakes higher than ever. Would she choose the familiar love of Jake, forged in trust and warmth, or the allure of ambition with Ethan, a flame of possibility? The room hung in a pregnant pause, hearts racing as she prepared to reveal her truth. What would you choose? The air in the town hall was electric, charged with anticipation. A hush fell over the crowd as Sarah stood there, grappling with the swirling emotions threatening to consume her. Tommy's innocent face flashed in her mind. What would he think? A mother's choice weighed heavily on her heart. Would it reflect her dreams, or would it tether her to a life of regret? Jake stepped closer, his brow furrowed with concern. "Sarah, just say what's in your heart." His voice was calm, yet the urgency dripped from every word. He represented safety, the life she had built brick by brick with hard work and unwavering loyalty. He reached out, his hand barely brushing hers, sending a message that felt both liberating and suffocating. On the other hand, Ethan stood in the shadows, his presence like a captivated flame. His twinkling eyes dared her to consider life beyond Maplewood. The adventure, the excitement, it was intoxicating, like a heady sip of something forbidden. But did she really know him? Doubt gnawed at her, a lurking shadow that threatened to swallow the thrill he represented. Sarah, his voice broke through, eager yet measured. I've made mistakes, I know that. But it's those mistakes that have driven me to be better. I can show you a world filled with possibilities. His passion hung in the air, almost tangible, coaxing her to step into the unknown. As her chest tightened, fleeting memories played like a movie reel. The gentle laughter that filled the diner, late nights spent keeping Tommy entertained, the shoulders of friends who offered their strength with a simple smile. The kaleidoscope of love and laughter wrapped her tightly, but the idea of expanding that world tugged at her heartstrings even more strongly. The silence in the room felt oppressive, filled with lingering questions that nobody dared voice. Would she continue in the safety of love, the warmth of a life she could predict? Or would she chase the enticing prospect of adventure, even if it meant risking her heart? Tommy needs stability, she thought, searching for the anchor that Jake represented. Yet the vision of their cramped diner, the weight of tradition, unsettled her. Does stability mean suffocation? She wondered. A million thoughts raced as tears pricked at her eyes at the thought of letting anyone down. Then came the loud clap of a gavel. The town mayor took the stage, interrupting her spiral of nerves. All right, folks, we need to hear from our nominees for Community Hero tonight. The world shifted back, passing the ball to other voices, but Sarah was still caught in her internal duel. She needed to make a choice, and she needed to make it soon. As the night continued, each cheer and applause from the gathered crowd felt like a ticking clock, nudging her closer to resolution. The spotlight fell momentarily on her, and all eyes bore into her with anticipation. How do you decide a fate that shapes not just your life, but that of your child? Each moment felt like a path diverging in the woods, each one layered with consequence. With a heart pounding like a drum, she whispered to herself, the answer lies within. But just then, a figure emerged at the back of the hall, a newcomer she hadn't seen before. Maybe another complication in her already tangled heart. Who was this person, and what would they mean for her choices? As Sarah's vision narrowed on the stranger, she felt a shiver of uncertainty pierce through her resolve. The night was far from over, and so was the journey she never quite expected. Where would it all lead? The murmur of the crowd faded into a soft background buzz as Sarah's gaze focused on the newcomer. The stranger, tall and confident, stood against the wall, arms crossed casually yet radiating an intense energy. He had dark hair that framed a face set with determined features, and his eyes sparkled like they held secrets she longed to uncover. Who are you? She thought, her heart fluttering in her chest. Here she was, caught between two men she knew intimately in different ways, and now a wild card had entered the fray. The feelings of hope, fear, excitement, and dread coiled in her stomach, mixing into a potent concoction. Sarah. Jake's voice broke through her thoughts, drawing her attention back to him. We believe in you. You know that, right? His hand squeezed her shoulder gently, grounding her, anchoring her back to the life they built together. There was an earnest sincerity in his eyes, a plea for her to stay where it felt safe. But as Sarah turned back to the newcomer, she saw uncertainty mirrored in Ethan's face. His usually confident demeanor wavered, and for a moment she saw a flicker of vulnerability. Could this new presence threaten his chance at the connection he had fought so hard for? It tugged at her heart. Who would have thought the man who stumbled into her life not long ago could stir something so deep and complex within her? The mayor called for attention again, his voice booming yet somehow distant. Our first nominee tonight, Mary Thompson, has shown unwavering commitment to our community. As the applause erupted and the spotlight shifted to Mary, Sarah felt the heat of the moment, her thoughts swirling. What do I want? She whispered to herself, forgetting the others around her. Do I crave stability? Or something that sets my soul on fire? What about Tommy? A sudden wave of guilt washed over her, snapping her back to reality. He deserved a mother who made decisions with clarity, who wasn't drowning in confusion. She quickly glanced back at Jake, whose gentle smile brought warmth. But Ethan's eyes lingered on her, curious and hopeful. Any decision made from fear is a step backward, she thought. Holding on to that thought, she straightened her back, feeling the charge in the air around her. Sarah. The mayor called again, this time more insistent. It's your turn. Every footstep felt heavy as she approached the stage. She could hear the crowd rustling, waiting for something profound. Her gut twisted, pondering how her choice would ripple through her life and Tommy's. She thought of the adventure Ethan represented, the uncharted waters of possibility that beckoned with every word he had spoken. Then she remembered the comfort in Jake's steadfast presence, the mundane bliss of their everyday life. As she stood there, a lump formed in her throat. What do I say? She thought, glancing back at both men. Their faces a mirror of hopes and dreams. The mayor adjusted his glasses, a slight smile playing on his lips, urging her forward, urging her to speak from her heart. Tonight isn't just about recognizing heroes, she began, her voice shaky yet firm. It's about choosing the kind of life we want for ourselves and for our loved ones. Silence fell, breaths collectively held. The crowd leaned in, waiting for her next words. Just when she thought clarity might settle in, the newcomer stepped forward, his eyes locking onto hers with a searing intensity. Sarah, you can choose whatever life you want. It's yours. A ripple of shock swept through the audience. The air grew even heavier, tension coiling tightly, and Sarah found herself staring into a future filled with unknowns. But with it came an undeniable surge of excitement. What would she choose amidst all these possibilities? She felt her heart race, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The moment of truth is here, she thought. What if the next few words she spoke could change everything forever? The room felt electric as Sarah stood on the brink of revelation. What do I truly want? Those words echoed in her mind with every heartbeat, wrapping her in a cocoon of anticipation. She was acutely aware of the weight of the moment, not just for herself but for the men watching closely. They represented two very different paths, and she was the compass guiding their destinies in that packed hall. As she looked at Ethan, a twinge of fear gripped her. Could she really throw herself into the unknown? Into a world filled with spontaneity and newfound emotions? She could see in his eyes a challenge, an invitation to be bold. But there was that comfort in Jake's gaze, warm and familiar, promising safety and love. How could she choose between the thrill of uncharted waters and the quiet joys of stability? Sarah, the mayor's voice, steady and inviting, brought her back to the moment. There was an expectation that filled the air. It wasn't just her future at stake. It was a statement that echoed through the entire community. She could feel the weight of their anticipation pressing down on her shoulders. In that split second, a part of her wanted to run from the stage, to escape the pressure of the night, but another part, the stronger part, needed to face it head-on. Think about Tommy, she reminded herself. His life was intertwined in the choices she was about to make. He deserved a mother who believed in her own decisions, who lived authentically and fully. Clearing her throat, she cast her gaze across the crowd once more. This isn't just about me, she said, her voice rising with newfound clarity. This is about each of us living authentically, about chasing the lives we want. The swell of her resolve surged through the audience, drawing appreciative murmurs and nods. She could see people leaning in, their own hopes reflected in her words. Ethan stepped closer again, his expression one of fierce encouragement. Go on, he urged, his voice barely a whisper but filled with intent. Now was the time to tap into that well of emotion bubbling inside her. I want to be brave, she declared, and it was as if a dam had burst. I want to live for myself and for my son. The crowd stirred, a wave of support washing over her. But I also want to be grounded. I need to balance adventure with love. She turned slightly, her heart pounding as she faced Jake. You've always been my rock, Jake. But I can't pretend I don't feel. Her voice trailed off, struck by the reality of what she was about to say. Jake's expression softened, but there was an unmistakable flash of concern. You don't have to do this alone, Sarah, he interjected gently. I will support you no matter what that looks like. Ethan stepped forward again, his body giving off a magnetic energy that electrified the air around them. You can have both, he urged, eyes gleaming with hope. Don't limit yourself. Life is about exploring the edges, discovering what you truly want. The tension between the two men crackled like static electricity. Sarah's heart raced. Can I really have both? A safe haven and the thrill of exploring the unknown? The thought rolled through her mind not just as a question but as a new possibility, something brighter. Taking a deep breath, she felt the moment rush in like the tide, unstoppable and beautiful. I want to choose a path that embraces both stability and adventure. With those words, a shift cascaded through the crowd. It was tangible, a collective deep breath. Relief mingled with excitement. She could feel the warmth wash over her, bolstered by the voices of friends and neighbors who understood the struggle of following one's heart. As she looked out into the sea of faces, some smiling, some contemplative, Sarah suddenly realized that her choice wasn't about choosing one over the other. It was about redefining love and connection. What would her world look like if she embraced the wildness and the warmth together? The crowd erupted into applause, but in that moment, it was the unknown that loomed larger than any sound around her. What comes next? She thought, her heart beating in sync with the ripple of inspiration around her. And just then, as Sarah felt her spirit break open with possibility, a voice broke through the applause, a voice she didn't expect to hear. But what if you lose both? It sent a chill through her, and a new question loomed. Was she brave enough to embrace it all? Or would her desires drift away in the tide of uncertainty? The room fell silent, a hush settling like a thick blanket over the crowd. Sarah's heart raced, pounding against her chest. The question hung in the air, heavy and palpable. What if you lose both? The voice belonged to a familiar face, Nathan, her childhood friend. He had always been the pragmatic one, the voice of reason. His words didn't just pierce the excitement. They painted a picture of fear that pricked at her heart. Feeling the weight of his gaze, she looked away, seeking solace in the supportive faces of the crowd. Each one of them had their own stories, dreams mingled with fears, hopes intertwined with regrets. What if, she thought, grappling with the sudden rush of uncertainty threatening to pull her under? Ethan stepped closer, his silhouette a beacon against the rising tide of doubt. Don't let fear dictate your choices, Sarah. His voice was firm, filled with a spark that set her heart alight again. You are stronger than that. You can redefine your future. But the doubts echoed louder now, creeping in like shadows. She glanced at Jake, whose expression was a mix of concern and encouragement. He reached out, kind eyes questioning her. You don't have to choose between safety and adventure, he said softly. You can blaze your own trail. Sarah felt the warmth of his belief wrap around her, but the weight of possibility lingered, making her second-guess everything. What if taking that leap meant losing everything she'd built? What if the unknown swallowed her whole? Think of your son, another voice cried out from the crowd. He needs to see you live your truth. It was Jennifer, her neighbor. The word sparked something inside her, igniting a flicker of resolve. Tommy. Her sweet boy deserved a mother who didn't shy away from life's uncertainties. What would I want him to choose? She pondered. Can I really risk it all? She whispered, though it felt like a question aimed at the universe itself. The applause began to fade, replaced by a tentative silence as she collected her thoughts. The ambient murmurs around her morphed into background noise. Everything came back to that moment, a crossroads filled with choices, fears, and above all, love. I want to embrace life, she finally declared, edging toward an answer. But I want to do it wisely. Her heart beat loud and fierce, echoing her conviction. How do I blend both worlds without losing myself? Ethan took her hand, his grip warm and steady. You start by trusting yourself. Lean into the adventure and let love guide you. Sarah could feel the crowd's energy shifting again, the light of hope flickering brighter as they resonated with her struggle. She looked into their faces and saw it, their desire to chase after their own truths too. Maybe this was about more than her. Perhaps she wasn't just making a choice for herself, but igniting a fire in others to pursue their own aspirations. I don't just want to love, she said, her voice rising once more. I want to live fully. I refuse to let fear rob me of life's beauty, or to silence my heart's desires. Every word pulsed with empowerment, stirring something visible among her neighbors, who exchanged glances of understanding and solidarity. But as she made her declaration, a slant of uncertainty still hung over her head. What would embracing both really look like? Could she weave adventure into the fabric of her everyday life without compromising the love she held dear? The applause surged back, and yet within the swell of support, another thread of doubt lingered. What if it all goes wrong? A voice echoed, breaking through the cheers. Sarah looked up, unexpected tension knitting her brows. How could she move forward when a whisper of fear danced just out of reach? As the crowd continued to cheer, buoyed by her spirit, Sarah's inner conflict battled fiercely. A tantalizing question hung, and in that moment, she felt both exhilarated and terrified. Could she truly embrace the unknown while holding on to the warmth of her old life? And with every heartbeat, her mind swirled, the buzzing uncertainty twisting like a storm. Where would she find the courage to embrace it all? Would she step into a world of possibility, or would fear hold her back? The choices ahead felt infinitely vast. The cheers began to fade, yet Sarah felt the adrenaline thrumming in her veins, a steady rhythm that harmonized with the quickening tumult in her heart. She stood at the edge of a precipice, caught in the tension between what was safe and what could be. The crowd's exhilaration couldn't drown out the voice whispering urgent questions in her mind. What if it all goes wrong? That thought wrapped around her like a cold embrace. What if this journey led her to a place where she lost not only herself but also Tommy's trust? She glanced down, imagining the small warm hand of her son reaching for her, the chubby fingers that would one day grapple with bigger decisions. It was a lifeline, a tether to reality in a moment that felt all too surreal. A silence enveloped the room, thick with anticipation. The energy shifted, and the enthusiasm that had surged only moments before seemed to hang like a fragile thread between hope and apprehension. She locked eyes with Jake. He was the embodiment of her newfound strength, yet doubts assailed her. Pausing, she searched for her voice, unsure if she was ready to speak again. But then she recalled the burning desire inside her, a flame slowly growing, fueled by the stories of those who surrounded her. I don't want to just survive, she said finally, her voice stronger this time. I want to thrive for Tommy and for myself. Ethan's eyes sparkled with admiration, a reflection of everything she aspired to be. That's it, he shouted, rallying the crowd. That's exactly what we need to hear. His enthusiasm reignited the crowd, but Sarah felt like she was suspended between two worlds, a leader and yet still so vulnerable. The applause echoed again and she took a breath, the air heavy with the weight of all she felt. Through the crowd, Nathan remained, arms crossed, skepticism resting on his brow. But what does that look like? He called out, his tone serious. What do you do on days when it feels too hard? The question landed hard, stinging yet real. It pierced through the haze of hope, and Sarah could see it in the faces of those around her. They were good people just like her, battling their own fears and dreams. It's about balance, she replied, her gaze sweeping the audience. Every heart there pulsed with dreams, worries, and the potential to rise. I want to find a way to make adventure feel safe enough to be a part of my life without losing my way. A murmur of agreement filtered through the crowd, and with each face reflecting her determination, she felt her resolve strengthening. Yet Nathan's question lingered unrelenting, a reminder of the reality she could face ahead. And if you fall? If you lose something precious chasing after a dream? Her heart tightened, and suddenly the stakes felt fresher, sharper. What exactly was she risking? She thought of long nights spent holding Tommy's hand as he slept, the little moments of warmth that had carried her through darker days. But then, a vision of those same quiet nights flickered with possibility, a future where she showed her son the beauty of life's unpredictability. She didn't want him to grow up thinking security meant staying small, staying hidden. With a deep breath, she steadied herself. I will risk falling, she declared, her voice soaring above the collective tension. Because love is worth taking a chance. I don't want my dreams to die quietly in the shadow of fear. A ripple of emotion washed over the crowd. Hands clapped and voices cheered as she felt the swell of unified spirit lifting her higher. But in the excitement, uncertainty still lurked, a reminder that the path ahead would challenge her resolve more than any declaration could express. As the crowd's cheers faded again, she felt a flutter in her chest. What comes next? She wondered, peering ahead into the fog of tomorrow. Would she uncover the answers she sought, or would she find herself lost in the very desires that pushed her forward? Just then, a gentle tug at her sleeve pulled her from her thoughts. It was Tommy, his eyes wide with wonder. Mommy, can we adventure right now? His innocent smile melted her resolve like butter. Suddenly the fears dimmed, and a new question sparked to life. But how do I explain adventure to him, while I'm still figuring it out myself? And with that, Sarah faced yet another crossroads, the journey ahead poised with promise and uncertainty. The moment Tommy's voice broke through the lingering echoes of the crowd, Sarah felt a rush of warmth envelop her. Here was this small figure, a flicker of innocence and hope, asking for her to open a door to possibilities. In his eyes she saw everything she ever dreamed of, wanting to show him that life, with all its wildness, could be beautiful and fulfilling. Right now? She asked, her voice softening, almost retreating into disbelief. What could she offer in this vast swirl of emotions and decisions? To Tommy, adventure might be simply exploring the backyard or finding new shapes in the clouds. Yet here she stood, under the weight of a complexity that made her question her very instinct. Yeah. He jumped, hands clapping, his excitement bubbling like a pot on the verge of boiling over. His enthusiasm was infectious, a reminder that sometimes the small things held the greatest adventure. Sarah couldn't help but smile at him, her heart swelling with love. "Okay, buddy," she said finally, kneeling down to meet his gaze. "Let us make a little adventure, just you and me." The crowd slowly thinned, leaving behind the remnants of their energy. As she led Tommy out of the hall and into the sunlit world outside, a sense of purpose blossomed in her chest. Maybe the true adventure didn't have to mean monumental milestones or chasing distant dreams. Maybe it started right here, right now. In the backyard they discovered the small things. A butterfly flitting from flower to flower, the way the sun glimmered through the leaves, and the gentle sound of laughter that spilled from Tommy's lips. It was easy to forget the pressure that had weighed heavy moments ago when surrounded by the wonder in his eyes. "Look, Mommy. Over there." Tommy pointed excitedly towards a tree. A small squirrel danced along the branches, leaping from one to another, as if inviting them to join in the play. "He's brave," Sarah said, her thoughts twisting around the little creature, darting from fear to freedom. "Just like us." Jumping up, Tommy waved his arms as if inviting the squirrel for a chat. "Hey, come down. We won't hurt you." Sarah chuckled. But Tommy's determination stirred something in her. What if real adventure was about embracing each moment, no matter how small? It wasn't about conquering fears, but about recognizing and appreciating the journey. Moments passed, each one a little treasure wrapped in laughter and shared glances. Yet, amid this joy, the nagging question still flickered in the corners of her mind. After what felt like hours of bliss, their exploration turned into a quiet moment. They sprawled on the grass, watching the clouds drift lazily above. Tommy nestled against her, his small body expanding with each satisfied breath. "Mommy?" he asked, turning his head to meet her gaze, curiosity tinged with innocence. "Are adventures always fun?" The question hung in the air, weighty and profound. She pondered the things she shared with him, the joy of that day, and the dreams plaguing her that still loomed in her own thoughts. "Sometimes they are," she answered slowly. "But sometimes it gets a little scary." Tommy frowned, processing her words as he curled his fingers around a blade of grass, twisting it thoughtfully. "But it's still good to try." A smile broke through Sarah's worries. "Absolutely. Even if it's hard or if we fall, learning is part of the adventure." As if sensing her hesitance, Tommy giggled and kicked his legs, requesting simple fun that struck a chord deep within her heart. What was her adventure if not teaching him this very lesson? Suddenly, a sound startled them both, a vehicle revving up the driveway. Sarah's instinct kicked in, a jolt of uncertainty shooting through her as she recognized the car. It was Jake. His figure emerged, confident and purposeful. "Hey, I thought I'd come check on you too," he called out, walking toward them, a grin lighting up his face. Her heart raced, emotions tangling at the sight of him. Here stood the man who had sparked a fire within her unsure heart, but who also presented a new layer of complexity to her life. Questions swirled in her mind. What was she really feeling? Could she navigate both the adventure of being a mother and the growing excitement she felt around Jake? With Tommy giggling beside her, she faced Jake, feelings of hope and apprehension colliding. "Mommy, can Jake come on our adventure too?" Tommy's voice chimed in sweetly, utterly oblivious to the turmoil churning within Sarah. The moment hung in the air, pregnant with possibilities. Would she take that leap into the unknown, or consider the implications it might have on her journey? The choice flickered in her mind like the dancing shadows beneath the trees. And as Jake approached, Sarah felt the tightrope beneath her shift dangerously. What would she choose? Sarah's heart skipped a beat as Jake drew closer, his easy smile radiating warmth. The afternoon sun glinted off his hair, making him look almost ethereal. Yet, beneath that brightness, an unsettling tension brewed deep within her. The space between them felt charged, like a live wire threatening to spark. "What were you two up to?" Jake asked, crouching down to Tommy's level. His genuine interest only amplified Sarah's conflict. Tommy, with all the exuberance of a kid, launched into an animated account of their backyard escapade, his laughter ringing like sweet music. "Mommy said adventures can be scary but fun too," he chirped, casting a wide-eyed gaze between them, blissfully unaware of the undercurrents swirling in the air. Jake's gaze lingered on Sarah, searching for something in her expression. The moment felt too heavy, words trapped in her throat. What if sharing this moment with both of them spun her chaotic world into focus? "Yeah, they can be," Jake finally responded, turning his attention back to Tommy. "Especially when you're discovering new things. Like squirrel acrobatics?" Tommy beamed, just thrilled to be part of the conversation. "You should see how high he jumps." "What do you think, Sarah?" Jake turned back to her, the question striking deeper than expected, as if he sought her perspective on more than just the squirrel's athletic prowess. For a heartbeat, Sarah hesitated, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. She could feel the warmth of Jake's gaze holding her captive, flaring sparks against her inner confusion. She wanted to explain everything: the fears, the hopes, the impossible tangle of feelings between being a mother and the thrill that Jake ignited within her. But how could she unravel it all for Tommy's sake? "Mommy!" Tommy exclaimed, breaking the moment. "Let us show Jake the butterfly." Before Sarah could react, Tommy bounded toward the flower bed, his tiny hands reaching out for the fluttering creature that danced elegantly through the air. As he chased it, laughter spilling forth, Sarah felt the weight of her hesitation lift, if only a little. "Come on, let us catch up to him." Jake smiled, already his playful self, as he followed Tommy across the yard. Sarah watched them, the joyous sprite and the ever-caring adult, and an unexpected warmth spread through her. It occurred to her that maybe Jake's presence didn't have to complicate things. Maybe it was perfectly okay to explore this mixture of emotions alongside being a parent. Adventure didn't require a clear roadmap. "Mommy! Look!" Tommy's shout pulled her back into the moment. He stood triumphant, arms spread wide, a grin stretching from ear to ear as he caught the butterfly in his tiny palms. "I did it! Wow, buddy! You're amazing!" Jake cheered, and Sarah found herself smiling, the tension uncoiling with each joyful squeal from Tommy. "That's our adventure. We caught it," Tommy declared giddily, and Sarah found herself caught up in that innocence. Watching them in their moment of pure joy made her heart swell. Yet somewhere in her mind, worries flickered like a campfire fighting against the wind. How long could she allow herself to embrace this newfound harmony? What would tomorrow bring, when faces from the past would pull at her? But for now, beneath the glowing sun and laughter, she pushed those thoughts aside. "Let us release it," she suggested, her voice steadying. "It belongs to the world just like we do." As Tommy carefully opened his hands, the butterfly took flight, a flurry of vibrant colors against the clear blue sky. Sarah watched it disappear into the horizon, a part of her going with it. Jake turned to her, his eyes sparkling with unspoken understanding. "What's next?" The question lingered, heavy with possibilities that felt both exciting and frightening. Sarah breathed in, the air thick with hope. "Maybe we keep exploring," she said softly, her gaze meeting his. Together. As their eyes locked, the spark she felt earlier ignited once more, swirling around them like the autumn leaves dancing in the breeze. But as thrill coursed through her, another doubt lurked beneath the surface. Would she truly be able to embrace all of it? Just then, Tommy's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. "Can we find a treasure next?" The innocence in his words tugged at her heart. A treasure may lead them somewhere she hadn't prepared to go, somewhere deeper. Would she be ready to face whatever adventure awaited? As they turned to set off on their next quest, Sarah felt the pulse of change in her chest. She wasn't sure what lay ahead, but she could feel the thrill of the unknown calling her to take that leap. What treasure would they find? And would it change everything? Tommy's excitement was contagious as he led them across the yard, eyes darting around as if the very earth beneath his feet might yield some kind of hidden prize. "Treasure can be anything," he yelled over his shoulder, breathless with anticipation. In that moment, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps the journey itself would reveal something valuable, something more than gold or jewels. Jake stayed close behind, his presence like a steady anchor. "What kind of treasure do you think we'll find, Tommy?" he asked, his tone playful, gliding effortlessly on the currents of their joy. "Something special," Tommy exclaimed, pausing to pick up a stick, his idea of a treasure map. "A magic stick that helps us adventure." Sarah couldn't help but smile, the innocence of her son pulling her heart into a lighter space. She watched as he swung the stick around like a sword, declaring himself the bravest explorer. But even in the midst of their adventure, the shadows of her doubts loomed, quietly flickering in the corners of her mind. As they moved toward the old oak tree, Sarah felt a surge of nostalgia. This tree had seen countless childhood escapades. "We could look for treasure in the roots," she suggested, trying to push her worries aside. "Yeah, I bet there's hidden gems in there," Tommy shouted even louder now, stirring enthusiasm in Jake as well. As they knelt to investigate, the vibrant colors of the world blurred into a backdrop. Sarah watched as Tommy began to sift through the soil, carefree and focused. Jake's proximity felt warm against the cool earth, like a steady hand on her shoulder reminding her she wasn't alone in this. "Hey Sarah," Jake's voice pulled her from her reverie. "Do you remember when we used to climb trees?" The surprise washed over her. Memories rushed in, her younger self, face full of dreams, full of laughter. "We had some wild times," she admitted, laughter laced with a hint of bittersweet realization. The echoes of their past felt sharp, as if the moments had just happened yesterday. "Let us make new memories then," Jake said softly, his gaze steady on hers. For a heartbeat, a flicker of something old and familiar caught fire between them, a promise woven into his tone. As they continued digging, Tommy let out a triumphant cheer. "I found something." He held up a shiny object, half buried in the dirt, an old coin, tarnished but gleaming under the sunlight. "A treasure," he exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. "How about that?" Jake smiled, eyes dancing with delight. "You're a real treasure hunter, buddy." Sarah felt a pang of warmth in her heart, watching Jake and Tommy share that moment. Yet, an unsettling thought crept in. What if this simple treasure hunt was merely a game, a way to push deeper feelings aside? How long before reality seeped back in and muddled their adventures? She glanced at Jake, his face a mask of sincere joy as he celebrated with Tommy. But with each laugh, the doubts in her mind grew heavier. What if she was getting too close? Could she open herself up to potential heartbreak? Hadn't she already been through enough? But Tommy's laughter sliced through her thoughts again. "Mommy, look what else I found." His discovery pulled her back, grounding her with his innocent excitement. A small colorful rock matched the sun's fire, sparking excitement even in Sarah. "Wow, that is beautiful," she exclaimed, the smile on her face genuine now. "Maybe the rock is a gem in disguise." Jake joined in, crouching beside them. As they continued to inspect their treasures, Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling that this was all more than just a game. This was a window into what could be. "Maybe we're finding pieces of treasure inside us too," Tommy declared unexpectedly, his youthful wisdom striking a chord. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Was this adventure revealing what they all needed in life? Did they need to unearth not just forgotten objects but embrace the possibilities they held? She looked at Jake. He was smiling at Tommy, the moment stretching on. "What do you think, Sarah? Are we uncovering more than just coins and rocks?" His eyes danced with a challenge, a question that made her heart beat faster. But the weight of what that meant sent a chill down her spine. Could she truly let herself go? Explore the depth of this connection, without knowing what it might cost her? As uncertainty loomed, Sarah felt the thrill of the adventure pulling at her heart, urging her toward a decision that could change everything. "Let us keep digging," she said finally, determination simmering just below the surface. Perhaps their greatest treasure was yet to come. But what unexpected truths or hidden gems awaited them in this journey? The excitement of discovery reverberated through the air as Sarah, Tommy, and Jake scooped the earth away from the roots of the oak tree. The sunlight scattered like golden confetti through the leaves above, illuminating the little moments that felt like something magical. The laughter of her son, the warmth of Jake's presence, these were treasures she hadn't expected to find today. As they dug deeper, uncovering small trinkets, a weathered toy car, a tiny marble, each item brought snippets of their collective past into the present. Memories intertwined like the roots of the tree beneath them, a reminder of how lives converge, collide, and complement one another. With a playful shove, Tommy declared himself the king of treasure hunters. "I will find the rarest gem," he exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with adventure. The innocence in his declaration stirred something deep within Sarah, igniting a long-forgotten spirit that yearned to explore, to embrace the chaos of life wholeheartedly, even if it was messy. "Just remember, every great explorer needs a team," Jake chimed in, shooting a wink at Tommy as he patted Sarah's back, his touch filled with silent encouragement. As they continued their search, Sarah felt pulled between the comfort she found in Jake's steady presence and the joys of motherhood intertwining beautifully with adventure. Deep within her a transformation bloomed, a realization that life was so much richer when she allowed herself moments of connection. "Let us not just dig through dirt. Let us make some history," Jake said, chuckling as he pretended to wipe his brow dramatically. Sarah laughed, the sound floating through the autumn breeze. She glanced at him, the man who offered both stability and excitement. "Is that your secret treasure map?" she asked playfully, tilting her head. The moment felt carefree, a breath of fresh air in the midst of her swirling uncertainties. "Yes, right here," he proclaimed, pulling out an imaginary scroll and waving it in the wind. "X marks the spot where dreams come true." And there it was, something magic in the air, thick with laughter and the honesty of their shared experience. A spark ignited, pulling them closer. The weight of their worries drifted to the sides, and for a moment, they forgot the complicated threads that held their lives together. But as the afternoon wore on, Sarah's thoughts shifted. Could she truly embrace a future filled with exploration and love? Or would those wild desires eventually lead her to heartbreak? The doubts prickled at her heart like the chill in the wind. Yet curiosity and fear danced a delicate waltz, and she found herself ready to leap not into the unknown, but into the beautiful connections forming right under her nose. Suddenly, Tommy's jubilant voice pierced her thoughts again. "I found something big, Mommy." His excitement was infectious as he stumbled a few steps away, eyes wide with awe. "What do you have, buddy?" Sarah searched his face, praying it would banish her doubts. He choreographed a little dance before raising something high in the air, a weathered wooden box, partially buried near the roots. "Look, treasure!" Tommy squealed triumphantly. Sarah rushed over, excitement bubbling within her. The urge to preserve this moment for Tommy, to celebrate the small joys together, stirred the deepest corners of her heart. "Let us open it," Jake encouraged, kneeling beside them. Together they brushed away dirt and leaves until the box was revealed, its surface mottled with time but still holding the promise of secrets inside. Heart racing, Sarah felt alive with anticipation. With a shaky hand, Tommy unclasped the rusty latch, each creak resonating like a drumroll. As the lid swung open, sunlight poured into the box, revealing an assortment of forgotten treasures: old coins, worn photographs, and a small hand-carved figurine. "It's beautiful," Tommy exclaimed, his hand reaching out to touch the worn wooden carving. As Sarah gazed at the contents, emotion swelled in her chest. This wasn't just a box. It was a capsule of history, a tangible reminder of journeys past and dreams shared. She glanced at Jake and saw the spark of wonder written across his face too. In that moment, deeply connected by love's simple but transformative power. "Every hidden treasure tells a story," Jake ventured, his voice soft yet filled with awe at the discovery. "What do you think they wanted to find? Adventure?" Tommy answered, eyes wide with understanding. Sarah's heart melted a little. "And perhaps hope," she added, daring to challenge the fears that buzzed at the edges of her thoughts. Maybe this adventure was about more than about making a choice. Maybe it was about weaving together the fabric of her life in ways she hadn't anticipated. Absorbing the energy of these unexpected discoveries, she looked at the two most important people in her life: her son, bursting with promise, and Jake, who stood there ready to journey with them. "We can start collecting our own treasures," she said, her voice firm and light all at once, emboldened by the moment. "Let us make memories instead of just moments." Jake nodded, understanding glimmering in his eyes. Tommy jumped up, holding the box close to his heart. "Then I'm going to find more treasure." And in that flurry of hope and excitement, Sarah could feel her own desires unearthing themselves as well. Each decision shaped by the love she held for her son, every adventure intertwined with the connection to Jake. Maybe this wasn't about sacrificing one for the other. It was about fully embracing both. Together we'll unearth so much, she whispered to herself, the weight of her worries fading as they ushered in that sweet, sweet freedom, the freedom to juggle dreams and reality, love and adventure. As they ventured back toward the house, Tommy leading the charge with his newfound treasure in hand, Sarah felt a lightness envelop her spirit. Today had marked a turning point, a revelation that while the unknown was always scary, it was also where true magic could unfold. Let us make sure we find the biggest treasures of all, she said, as they walked hand in hand, ready for the journey ahead. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over Maplewood, it became abundantly clear. Sarah was ready to embrace it all, the adventure, the love, and everything in between. Subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories that will pull at your heartstrings. Leave a like now to keep the algorithm alive and thriving. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this story of transformation. You need to show your support because only true fans understand how crucial they are to this community.